Brief introductions. This is Inventory Made Simple. My name is Ben Coyle. This is Markus. Some of you have actually known us for quite some time. We've been in this industry for quite some time, and obviously we have a lot of inventory experience, not only from the practice management side, but also from the actual distributor side. We do need to thank our sponsors. Mike has already left from Rance. But Rance is our DR solution, AGFA is our CR solution. Those integrate very well with Clientrax. Some of the stuff that Jeff Good has already kind of shown some of you in this room. You've seen evidence of that. PayPros is our merchant services that integrates with Clientrax. A Point Master, if you have not had a chance to see a Point Master, I would highly encourage you to go over to the booth and see the demonstration of it. It is it's definitely one of those things that no one else is able to do as of yet, and it really is a neat thing. And then of course Bank of America, in order to be able to purchase some of the things that you may be interested in purchasing, whether it be hardware or even some of the digital solutions, they're able to go ahead and make that happen for you. So we do appreciate our sponsors, because without them we wouldn't have what we have here today. So inventory. Yay, inventory. Do you have an actual motto in your clinic that says, if it's in stock, we've got it? Someone walks up and says, I need this. You know that it might be rare, but do you actually have it on the shelf? And there are quite a few people that will raise their hand and say, yes, we do. We've got this. We've got this particular bag of food that only 2 people out of the year ever end up ordering. Oh, and I see heads shaking. Yes, we've got it in stock. Well, okay. What is that actually doing? In our presentation today, we're going to take a look at inventory management. What is inventory management? It is the process of ordering and storing products that the company sells. Your goal is to go ahead and not only make a little money on the services you provide, but also the inventory that goes along with doing some of those services and making sure that it's profitable. So if you're successful, you have a nice balance. If you're unsuccessful, then you may not have the balance that you need. Obviously, you don't want to become a pill pusher per se, but you need to go ahead and take a look and evaluate, what does your practice do? We're going to talk specifically though about inventory control. That's a little bit, it's not only just managing inventory, but controlling it. It's basically going to be minimizing your total cost. How much inventory do you have to have on your shelf to function? Do you need to go ahead and have a year's supply worth of a particular product if it's not going to be sold? Successful inventory management basically involves making a plan, and obviously inventory. It is one of those things that is not easy. You also, and I've seen this happen, I've got enough experience, I'll walk into a lot of places and I'll ask who the inventory person is, and it might be the kennel person also. And inventory is important. You don't want to just give inventory to the newbie because nobody else wants to do it. And a lot of times, if bad habits have already been formed, then that new person that comes in is going to rely upon what evidence do they see, particularly in the practice management software, of how things were done before, in order to get a clearer picture of, well, I don't want to upset the apple cart. I want to go ahead and make sure that everything keeps going the way it should go. So trying to make sure that you don't have too much on the shelf or too little on the shelf, that is successful inventory control, and making that plan in order to get there. So why? Well, just like in most companies, your largest expenditure is going to be on staff. It's you've got your people. Your second largest expenditure, inventory. The actual products that are on the shelf right there. And because inventory is the second largest expense, another reason of why not to necessarily give it to the new person that just came in off the street, unless that is their specialty. I know that some people say, we're a small practice, we can't hire someone just for inventory, and I'm not advocating that. But inventory is important, especially when you take a look at the overall costs, which we'll see in a little bit, of what inventory can do for you. Simplified, as it says here, well-managed inventory solutions provide a foundation for successful business. And that is a fact. If you do not have good inventory control, you are tying up capital. You are tying up revenue for yourself, for the practice that might be able to be allocated to something different.
Who in this room has taken advantage of home delivery? Anyone?
You guys?
Delivery.
Home delivery. Basically, home
like
delivery.
An online store where it goes to your house.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have this.
Very good.
Yeah, there's a lot. All of the major distributors have something built with themselves that you can get home delivery. I actually have some personal experience on the one that Butler has, and we were concentrating on the food aspect, especially getting recurring orders for dog food. And the nice thing is, with that home delivery system, you're not storing any of that food on site. You can go ahead and have less food on site. You can start someone out on a particular prescription diet and then set it up so that they have a recurring order that can be auto-billed to them every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever you want to set it up as for the next X amount of times. If the person wants to go ahead and get that food moved, well, it's up to them. They get an email sent to them saying, this is going to happen. Do you want to proceed? And so it gives them a chance to go ahead and opt out or to go ahead and change the date. But the beauty is the veterinarian practice is still making money. They just don't happen to have the food there on site or as much of the food on site. So not only are you maximizing things, but you're also reducing the amount of room that is taken up by some of those big bulky items. Because I'll go into a lot of practices and you've got a room dedicated just to food. And you've got shelves that are higher than some of the workers that are actually there, and they have to get step stools to get things down. So that's home delivery. So looking at this, what does Walmart, Amazon, and FedEx have in common? Well, there's this thing called just-in-time ordering. All right, they don't have warehouse after warehouse of items sitting, waiting to be moved to the main store. Just-in-time ordering is just that. As soon as I go to Walmart and I pick out something, let's say a television, there is something going out saying a television has been bought. They know what their reorder levels are, what their reorder points are, and when it gets to a certain area, there might be another television that comes within a day or two. Maybe it's 2 televisions, depends upon how they have things set up, but they have it honed to a science. They are efficient for a reason. They are able to get what they need at a bare minimum for storage and get it to us, the consumer. And we're always able to have access to it. Veterinarians, traditionally, not quite so much. We usually end up having a whole lot of stuff on the shelf, and whenever we get it sold, we get it sold. So we need to make a plan. What is our objectives? Now, luckily, because this conference, it's February. Most of you, hopefully all of you, have already done some sort of count at the end of the year to know what do I have on my shelves? Do I actually have enough? What was the value of my inventory at that time, especially with the tax man coming around the corner? Looking at what was my revenue last month? What was my revenue last year? And then you have to make a decision. What percentage of revenue should be held in inventory? How many times is it turning over? Do I have reorder levels? And do I have reorder amounts put into my practice management software? All practice management softwares that are currently on the market have some inventory tracking inside of them. Are you using it? And that's one of those things that, Doug, Craig, myself, we've seen it all. And there are ways that the softwares are able to help you, but it's a matter of, are you taking advantage of it? Are there things that can help make you a little bit more efficient? Because obviously, the inventory person is also using a lot of time in order to make sure that the order is done and done correctly. So, how much inventory on hand should I have? Now I'm going to use some round numbers, okay? So, one method, and we're going to compare this a little bit. If I have $100,000 in monthly sales, products and services, $30,000 of inventory on hand equals 30%. So, that's $30,000. What if I can cut that down to 20%? If I cut that down to 20%, that means $20,000 per month. Obviously, times 12, that's $140,000 in capital that's freed up. What if you can get it less than that? I'm not trying to go ahead and say, let's go ahead and do a slash and burn. But Doug, myself, Craig, we could walk into almost any clinic and start reducing what you have on your shelves immediately to free up capital, giving you suggestions of this is what you need to do with your inventory. And looking at what can what can you do on your own to go ahead and reduce the amount of inventory that's sucking up money? Because if it's on the shelf, it has to be paid for. And if it's not being sold, well, what's it doing?
This is real stuff too. About this same time last year, I helped a particular clinic here in town. They took the steps that we're going to show you here in a minute. And she informed me last week that her accountant told her that they've reduced their inventory on hand by $40,000. And she doesn't think they're doing a good job. They're just barely scratching the surface. They really haven't applied it to food and the majority of her clinic. But $40,000 reduced at the end of the year. So it's real stuff, and it's real numbers. So thank you, Ben. If you guys have questions through this process, through this presentation, raise hand, interrupt. Okay, it's kind of meant to be an open discussion too. So first of all, I want to attack and kind of walk through turnover. And I'm going to compare it to buying product B, we'll say Frontline, in January, where I'm buying $15,000 of product B in January, and we're going to sell it throughout the year. That's a turnover of 1. Now what happens if I take that same product B, and by the way, that product's going to cost me $15,000. At the end of the year, I'm going to make $2,500 in profits of it. So that's a turnover of 1. Then I'm going to take that same product, and let's say I buy it every 30 days. So I spend $1,250 every 30 days. At the end of the year, I'm still going to buy $15,000 worth of stuff. I'm still going to make $2,500. But what have I done? Instead of buying $15,000 in January, I'm buying it every 30 days. So I'm literally freeing up almost $14,000 in capital through the year on this one product. So that's what turning over your product can do for you. Now, from a billing perspective, Webster, MWI, Butler, if you buy something today, when's it due? Is it due in 30 days? Due in 30 days. So, with that being said, is there really a reason to hold any more than 45 days? See, that's actually me. Wife. All right. So is there a reason to really hold any more than 45 days worth of inventory if your distributors want their money 30 days after you buy it? Not really. So I would venture to guess our ideal turnover ratio should be somewhere between 8 to 12. Okay. All right. Time equals money. Inventory takes time. You heard our doctor friend discussing this earlier. It takes an investment in time. We got to put information into our practice management software. We should be doing cyclical counting to get our counts current. Inventory takes effort and it takes time. But nowhere in this discussion are we going to talk about either A, beating up our distributors for every penny that we can get out of them, or going to MWI's website, Butler's website, Webster's website, every time I order something and looking at what is today's price for every single item that I order. That's not inventory management. It's micromanagement if you ask me. Okay, so this takes time, but focus spending that time on the right things is really our point here. Okay, so part of our plan is, Craig, how in the world do we create and get our reorder levels and our reorder amounts? Okay, how do we do this? So the easiest way that we like to do this is take a busy time of the year. Okay, take a point from, let's say, May till September. Run a productivity report. Okay, and that productivity report will tell you what you sold during that busy time. Okay, we're then going to take that quantity, we're going to then divide it by the number of selling days during that time frame. Okay, and that is going to give us an average daily amount of what we need on hand or what we sold. Okay, so during that busy time frame, how much we sold, divide by the number of days, that gives us our average daily amount that we sell for every product. Okay? Now we also need to look at what is the average time that we're going to hold our inventory. So we kind of discussed earlier, somewhere less than 45 days. So let's take a 2-week standpoint, okay? Because if my products have a 100% markup percentage and my bill is due 30 days from now, after 15 days, the products that I ordered today are already paid for, right? Simple math, okay? So we're going to take 15 days as our beginning part. We're then going to add our shipping time frame. Butler, MWI, and Webster pretty much give you next day shipping. You order it today in the morning, you're going to get it tomorrow, okay? So we're going to use 15 days as our number for how long for our bottom level. Multiply that by C, which is how much we sell per day on average, and that gets us our reorder level. Now here pretty soon I've got a spreadsheet to actually show you how to export all this and get the formulas to actually do it. So there's our reorder level. Now, how much do we need to reorder? So it's the same thing. I take that amount, that average amount per day that I'm selling. I then have to figure out what's my safety stock. Okay, so is that a week or 2 weeks? Remember, we already have 15 days built in. If I add 2 weeks, that's another 2 weeks, so that gives me a maximum of a month's worth of inventory on hand at any point. Let's bring that back down. So let's say 7 days, plus my day of shipping. So that's a safety stock from 7 to 8 days. I multiply that by my daily amount, and that's my reorder amount. Okay. Now, pretty soon I'm going to show you, but if that reorder amount ends up being something like 18, and it's a bottle of cephalexin that comes in a 120 count bottle, my reorder amount is going to end up being 120. Okay, but we'll manually walk through that. If your current practice management software cannot export your reports directly to Excel, or you can't directly print to PDF, I recommend go to bullzip.com, get a PDF printer. Okay, that will allow you to take your reports and print them and get them into a PDF. Then from there, I've given you a couple links here. You guys can get this presentation. And these products allow you to take a PDF and convert it into Excel. Okay, now I've got that productivity report dumped into Excel. Okay, and what that ends up looking like is something like this. Okay, looks like a lot of information, but what's key here is I've got all my products, and I got how much I sold of that product during this peak selling period. This peak selling period had 106 days, okay? So what I'm now going to do is go back and calculate what is my quantity per day. And that's simply taking my quantity divided by 106. And that's going to give me my average quantity per day. Okay? Now we come in and we knock out the reorder level. In my presentation example, I said that that number of days for our cushion for the reorder level was 14 to 16. In this particular instant for the clinic I was working with last year, we used 12. So I simply take how much we sell per day times 12. And that gives us our bottom level quantity. So that's our reorder level. Use the formula, take it all the way down, and I'm done. The next step is the reorder amount. Same thing. So this was that week's worth. So in this case, I used six selling days multiplied by our average single day, and that got us in column L our reorder amount. So now I take column C, K, and L and paste them into another spreadsheet. And I end up with something like this, and this is where the manual effort comes in. Now I've got to evaluate each product and come up with how I actually receive these products from my vendors. So it may have a reorder amount of 5 or 10, but when I order it, if it's 200, I stick 200 in here. Now what we do with this information is now I've got my reorder levels and my reorder amounts. Stick that to your practice management software. Okay? And here's another idea. How about we label our clinic? Who's got their clinic labeled? Where the products are on the shelf, do you have it labeled with what it is, what the reorder amount is, and the reorder level? What about what class it is? Is this a class 1, 2, or ABC? Okay? Easy to do. You just may not know it. If your practice management software can't put out an inventory sticker with this information, just go to dymo.com. I've given you a link. They've got a nice software package that ends up looking something like this. I can take that information from that spreadsheet, I can copy it, and I can paste it, and I can create a label where I've got my description of my product, my reorder level, my reorder amount, and maybe even the class that product is in. That helps your staff visually identify, hey, are we getting low on something that's not on the report? It also helps when we get into cyclical counting. So, anybody do anything like this? Okay, it's easy. This stuff is there. So plan counting, just like our doctor was mentioning before, identify your products. Products A, B, and C, okay? And if I end up working for you, essentially what that means is your staff are counting stuff once a week, every other week, okay? A products are counted once a month, B products every 3 months, C products once a year, okay? Or whatever fits your business model. Our discussion earlier, she had her clinic counting everything within a quarter, okay? Now, part of the beauty with Clientrax is we actually have a spot for this so that you can label on your inventory card what class it is. Is it an A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to do. And at the end of the day, you know, we're putting all this stuff into our practice management software, and that's where it belongs. When I started, we kind of started this conversation, and we started talking about some levels, some benchmarks. Who in this audience could run a report today to get a value of what your inventory on hand is and know that it's 100% accurate? Okay? That's where using our practice management software to get this information in becomes valuable, because I can see not only can we set our benchmarks, but we can set where do we want to get to, okay? And then we can also end up running quick reports, reorder reports. What am I low on? What am I going to be low on? Instead of being the pill shaker and saying, okay, are we getting close? You know, that happens, but you know, we want to be proactive, okay? Did I skip anything?
Nope, I don't think so. So, kind of exactly what he was talking about. Your software can do it. We have combined years of experience in just software. It doesn't matter. All the softwares that are out on the market right now have the ability to do it. The question is, do you know, one, how to do it, and then where is it? So, obviously, software provides the solution to track your inventory. Once you put the information into the software, it'll go ahead and give you just that much back. As Craig had mentioned, yeah, I saw a couple people kind of shake their heads and laugh about, you know, the whole shaking of the bottle to see, hey, are we low on something or not? We've always seen that. Everyone has a certain way of trying to do their inventory, but is it efficient? Is it the best way of doing it? Are you not only wasting time, but also wasting money for that person to do the things that they are currently doing? We're looking for a better and more efficient way of getting you where you need to be on your inventory. Once you've done some of the stuff that Craig has talked about, you can see, you can go in and set your reorder points and amounts. You can set up the quantity on hand. You can set up the market percentage. You can receive the inventory, whether you do it manually, as in, I'm going to go line item by line item by line item, or if I'm going to go ahead and create a PO because I ran my report that says this is what you're low on, and I can I can go ahead and create a purchase order and send that off to my vendor, and when it comes in, that I can go ahead and say, I received this, I didn't get this one, and so it's on back order. So depending upon how you want to enter things into inventory.
We haven't even discussed market erosion.
No.
Or margin erosion.
No.
You know? How many of you guys are bringing in your purchase orders into your practice management software so it automatically updates your price? Okay, that's a goal. We want that, okay? Because if you're not doing that in real time, you got the potential of your prices your costs going up and your prices in your clinic not automatically reflecting that.
And staying the same.
And staying the same, just margin erosion.
And so, you have a certain idea of what you want your market percentage to be. At least all the practice management or practice managers and doctors, they'll give, this is what our goal is to be. But you'll have someone that will go ahead and say, well, yeah, we increase our prices every 6 months. I have others that I've walked into that say, oh, we increase it at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year when we get the new price list from our vendors. And great, but guess what? Throughout the year, different things happen. Something goes up in price. I can't remember what product it was that went up in price. It was like 20 bucks. I think it was a tube type of thing, but it was like 20 bucks for the tube and it jumped to $100. And it's because there was a shortage happening. Well, guess what? The one place I remember specifically, they forgot to increase their selling price. So every time they sold that, they lost money. And there are ways of making sure that that doesn't happen in all softwares, but especially Clientrax, that isn't really going to happen. You need to plan your reorder points. This plan, you got to put it into the system. Obviously, that whole adage of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't put it into the system, guess what? It's going to be a whole lot harder to go ahead and get things accomplished that you want accomplished. Do I have too much on my shelf? I don't know. Well, how do we go ahead and fix this? This is a screenshot from Clientrax, so you can see that there's a place for reorder points, and I'll actually move over here. You're going to see, here's our market percentage. We have a place for margin by a percentage or by a fixed amount. You can see that there's also the quantity on hand here. You can go ahead and see there's what Craig was talking about with the cycle. Is it A, B, C? That type of thing. How often are we counting? We have a lot of fields inside of Clientrax that will help you. You put the information in, it's going to come right back out and not only make you more efficient, but it'll give you a better handle on what do we have on our shelves. Craig was talking about, he was just using his example of 15,000. I was at a clinic. I walked in first day and they ended up finding out that they had accidentally ordered $25,000 worth of heart guard. And yeah, they thought that they'd gotten a great deal after they looked at everything, but that's $25,000 that's sitting on the shelf. This was August. The doctor said, I know I'll sell it, but the issue is that money's tied up on the shelf. You're not going to sell that much before you have, it's wintertime coming up. You're not going to have the, and by the way, this was in a northern state, so there actually is snow and cold. So a lot of people aren't going in and rushing in to buy their heartworm medication until the spring. So you've got that all tied up. Well, what's that do? That prevents that practice from being able to, maybe at the end of the year, they need to go ahead and purchase some new equipment. Whether it be maybe some computers, because they wanted to put computers in the rooms because they didn't have it before, or being able to go ahead and replace a table, being able to take a look at a new autoclave, something along those lines. Where there's always something in a veterinary practice that could be improved. You could get a little bit better. Hopefully, with some of the ideas that we're giving you, you can free up some of that capital, because if it's not being sold and you're still paying the bill, well, what's happening? You're not technically losing money, but you don't have money to spend either. It's all tied up. Inside of Clientrax, you can run a reorder list. You won't have to, as we tease a little bit, but we know it's true, go around and shake the bottle. Do I have any left or not? It's a matter of run your reorder list. If it turns out that you know that you need to make orders every other day, you'll go into the system and you'll say, system, what am I low on today? And I can look at that report and see, what am I supposed to order? And then you can make that order. If it turns out that, perfect example, oh, we're one pill above and we didn't see it on the report, well, guess what? Next week, or the next time we end up selling that and we run the report, it's going to show up on there anyway. So it's not like you're going to be going for months at a time without ordering something, as long as you put the information into the system will give it right back to you when it is time. Basically, that is inventory management. It's the key is it's not an overnight process. I wish I could say it was. I've been in this business way too long to be able to tell you, yes, it's an overnight process. I've had one clinic that tried it. They kept their staff from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. to count everything, get it into the system, and they were miserable because guess what? They didn't quite have everything where they needed to be, and within a week, everything was still messed up.
It's baby steps.
It is.
Start with your Class A, okay? Get those into the system. Use that for your cyclical counting. These tools, I mean, we're just scratching the surface here. This presentation was more intended on giving you guys an idea of what's out there, what the potential is, and also knowing that Clientrax is loaded with some features that can help you out, okay? And you've got a team behind you that can come into your clinic and make this a reality.
Question, go ahead.
So what do you do with items that don't get invoiced out, like sleeves of gauze? Somebody takes a sleeve of gauze off the pharmacy shelf. What's the best way to keep track of things like that?
You know, over the years, I have seen multiple ways. One of the ways that, especially if you're at the very beginning, let's pick on syringes. All right, syringes. Are you actually trying to go ahead and charge out for a syringe? No. What I've seen actually some clinics here in the Central Ohio area do, in just simple terms, because you have to know your staff and what they're capable of. They'll end up saying, if we take a box of syringes off the shelf, everyone's good. It's kind of like a community syringe box. They tear off the top, they stick it into the basket. And guess what? There is someone that is responsible every day, every other day, to go to said basket and go to the computer and manually tell the computer, I now take one out. And by the way, you don't put in the computer necessarily that you have 10,000 syringes. All right, if it comes in a box of 500, fine. That's one box of 500. We know there's 500 in there. We're just tearing this off. It is a quantity of one. So if I have five boxes, all right, my quantity is 5. It doesn't matter if the syringe is in there. It's just a matter of that's a part of our cost that is already wrapped up in the service. So they tear off the top, they stick it in the box. They set their reorder levels as how low do I need to get before I need to go and get more syringes or gauze or something like that, and they figure out their formula.
Full boxes.
Full boxes, yes.
How many boxes? The software is capable of managing down to the syringe. I mean, you can put in your bundles and take out a syringe for every injection, but is that really what we're after? No. Start with the boxes, and the boxes have to be, it's a manual process. When I take out a box, I'm the individual that took it out. I put a note on the practice managers, 1 box of syringes or gauze taken out of inventory.
Or that physical box top so that they know what they need to take out of physical inventory.
And then how do you physically do that in Clientrax?
Okay, well, just like whenever we had our, I can't remember her name. Allegra. Allegra had said that what she ends up doing is she will actually have we'll call it a clinic account that has I can't remember what the name of the pet was, but anyway, shrink. I think she called it shrink. And so she would go in and actually invoice it out, invoice shrink for that inventory, so it comes out of the inventory. That's the way that Renee has also said that she used to train. That's one way of doing it. Is there a you can actually go, yes. Yeah, you can just edit this card right here.
Where that yellow box RECD, but you make sure you put a negative number in that yellow field, because otherwise you're paying. What happens with that, either going plus or minus, when you go to the OK to save, you get a reason for adjustment line window, which then helps in tracking, looking at transaction reports later on. It becomes part of the description of why did we do this on a certain day.
Yeah, and there are some people that aren't comfortable with having a staff member go into the card here, and so the other way is just, okay, we're going to invoice it out underneath the clinic account. We're able to go ahead and take a look and see what's happened on the clinic account all the different times, dates that things have been put in that clinic account underneath that clinic patient.
Be consistent, sorry to interrupt, be consistent on your decision. Don't
Yes.
do half
Yeah.
staff one way, half staff another.
That's right.
I mean, it goes back to your reporting. Your junk in is junk out, your garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
Even for your reports the same way.
Which is also why it's important to, prioritize of who's going to do what. This is, yes, I'm the inventory person and whoever my backup person is just in case I'm not available. But we don't want anyone willy-nilly just going in and, here, we're doing it.
Get everybody involved. I think that's the biggest recommendation. Get the entire staff involved in counting, if you are not doing that already. Once that happens, it's amazing how quickly your shrinkage stops. Because I know that they're becoming involved. Our doctor had a great suggestion about coming up with cheap incentives, on when the counts are accurate and everything, a pizza party and stuff like that. So get everybody involved is probably, from a trainer's perspective, the number one recommendation. Get your clinic involved in inventory.
And do use the idea when it comes to the consumable supplies that you don't bill out. What he said, track the boxes, not the individual. You can drive yourself nuts micromanaging. If you have an emergency come in, everybody's in a hurry, somebody bumps into each other, you drop syringes on the floor, you're dealing with the animal. That's what's more important. Somebody's going to forget that you dropped them on the floor and never take them out. So trying to get it in, the program will do that detail, as long as a person says, I dropped one. But do you really want to have the staff take the time to have to tell the computer they dropped one? So track the boxes, not the individuals on your consumable supplies, if you track them in the computer at all. Some clinics don't. They just do have an area, a line of sight, and you can do it either way. It depends on what's really most efficient. And even the thing like the account that Allegra talked about, that is a good way to make sure things are tracked that aren't consumable. Like that hospitalized animal that you gave a can of AD to that you're not going to bill the client for. You still need it out of inventory. And that's a way to get it out of inventory and still have an idea of specifically where it went, rather than making it look like food's gone missing.
So then your reorder points is what goes in your min and your max? Like your quantities, is that where you put, when this bottle gets below 50 tablets, I want to reorder 100?
Definitely the min.
Right.
Yeah, the men.
Okay. So you don't have to have a max number, but you do have to have the min number?
For the system to work for you, yes, you need to tell it, when do you want me to let you know?
Okay.
A max is for your own reference, or so that that person in charge can go on vacation and you have a run on something.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can know how much does she usually order. Excuse me. That's a quick way for them to know. I don't know what other systems do. I think that Intravet did have a similar thing, the purchase order window.
They did.
Yeah.
That does, forget printing out the report. You go to this vendor that you order from and click a button, and it tells you everything you're low on, and it does suggest, based on the max that you put in, how much to reorder. So it helps you be faster at doing that data entry if you do put those levels in.
We kind of look at it as if you're already going to go ahead and put the mins in there, put the maxes in there too. It's just gonna help out quite a bit. If that's how the formula works out for you, yes.
So with controlled substance, is there a way that this will track it instead of us having to keep the logbook anymore?
Absolutely.
It is.
Oh, it will?
It is. We still recommend that you do both, but
Right.
right down here I got a check mark that this is a controlled substance. Okay, and so every time that it's invoiced out, it's going to a report. We also check if it's a controlled substance and if it's checked for an RX label. That goes on a separate report. Some states have, it's called a ASAP report, okay, for controlled substance that are being dispensed. So we also provide that.
The biggest thing that I've run into over the years, I've got some states that will end up saying, yes, our state will accept and have it electronic. Others say, no, it has to be on paper. I've had others that said, it depends on your DEA agent. And so, is there really a good answer? I think this is the Ben Coyle opinion. Your best answer is you can use this check and balance. If it's going into the computer, then all right, fine. We can print out the controlled drug log however many times you want to. If it's going to be daily or every other day, but you're able to go ahead and say, all right, here's what it says in the computer. Here's what it says in our logbook. All right, so is there a discrepancy? And if so, why? Was it because we had, the patient crashing and we just needed to grab what we could grab and we didn't have time to go ahead and write everything down? And, I've been to 24-hour clinics to where they ended up having a Great Dane come in with bloat, and then they had 2 hit by cars. And they were busy. They were grabbing everything they could. And did they get everything in? Well, they didn't get it written down. They know what they charged because they went ahead and had that down. And they were able to go ahead and use that whole check and balance thing just in case the agent comes in and says, hey, show me your log.
Another good feature within Clientrax is for our items that are marked for controlled substance. Those of you that have Clientrax know that whenever you invoice it, not only do you have a box for how much was used, but you also have a box for spillage, waste. Okay, and that's what that is intended for. So if I'm using 8 cc's of this, and the rest is going down the sink, you can stick in that invoice. I used 8, I had 2 of waste. Okay, so that will show up.
So this will keep track of the injectable, the amount of these injectable also.
Yes.
Ben had an excellent point too on doing both electronic and paper just for checks and balances. But I've been in clinics lately where the state actually requires that they keep 2 logs. So you want to keep track of, what's required for you where you're at. And there's a certain level of AHA accreditation. If you're going for AHA accreditation, there's a certain level of that requires 2 logs.
More questions?
Well, thank you. Inventory takes time, and it's constant. But there's a big nugget out there. There's equipment and other things that you guys need to have in your clinics, and this is an easy way to obtain those, cutting out the extra inventory that's sitting on the shelf.
And especially with the accountants at the end of the year saying you need to, if you want this is how much money you end up having. If you can go ahead and, as Craig had in his example, you can go ahead and say, hey, guess what? We have $40,000 less on the shelf that we have to sell because it's already sold and we're getting better at things. 40 grand goes a long way. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.